Your brand may be staying on top of current trends, but are you agile enough to stay relevant, resilient, and successful as customers, competition, and the world continues to change at a breakneck pace? I'm thrilled to share the newly revised version of my first book, The Agile Brand. I'm calling it The Agile Brand Revisited. It's been updated to reflect our continually changing world, and it provides 7 principles that form the backbone of an agile brand, offering detailed insights and actionable steps for incorporating them into your business strategy. This is the book that started it all, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's now available in print and digital formats and available everywhere. Learn more by going to the Agile Brand Guide website at www.agilebrandguide.com. Welcome to Season 4 of The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom, where we discuss business agility through customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to TEKsystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at gregkihlstrom.com and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, now available on Amazon and other retailers. My name is Greg Kihlstrom, and I'm the host of the Agile Brand podcast. I'm excited to introduce a special series about the power of decision intelligence. This series is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome TEKsystems Senior Practice Director, Devang Pandya. Devang, first, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and what you do at TEKsystems?
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for the opportunity. I have been working with TEKsystem Global Services since last 13 years and currently responsible for driving the AWS technology transformation portfolio for TEKsystem Global Services. Obviously, as part of that, my responsibility is how can we deliver the modernization or the data transformation projects for our customers using AWS and associated technology for our customers. So that is what I do day in, day out.
Well, let's get started here talking about the power of decision intelligence. So, research firm IDC estimates that big data and analytics spending will reach 274 billion worldwide this year. Companies are investing big so they can make data-driven decisions, but it seems that the sheer volume of data and lack of context provided can still lead to poor decisions and less than ideal outcomes, which is where decision intelligence comes in. So, Devang, what exactly is decision intelligence?
Really good question, Greg. So this decision intelligence is about modeling decisions through a framework which improves the quality of the decision based on the learnings and the feedback loop. Goal is how can you make fast and qualitative decisions through decision intelligence platform to support, augment, and most importantly, automate the decisions.
We continue to hear about AI and machine learning adding value to data analytics, but you're talking about decision intelligence. What's the difference?
Yes, we have been hearing AI ML quite a lot since last probably a decade or so, heavily. So integrating data, analytics, and AI absolutely allows the creation of the decision intelligence platform, in my opinion. Decision intelligence combines a variety of decision making techniques such as artificial intelligence, automation, business intelligence, and forward thinking decision makers to basically drive meaningful impact for the organization and achieve a higher return on the data and the decisions that they are making. Instead of just looking at the historical data and making the decisions on that is probably not the way to proceed in current modernized business world. And I think that is where you want to lean towards decision intelligence platform that actually uses a lot of other techniques that I talked about, which includes AI, ML, and obviously traditional BI tool sets and etc.
Yeah, so along those lines, then, how does decision intelligence maybe either differ or augment a traditional business intelligence dashboard?
it has been quite a journey, right? And it's always an evolution, Greg. So business intelligence has been a very well-known technique for last probably 2 decades or so. And primarily it uses, the historical data to actually make the decision process for your current or somewhat future operations, right? Obviously, a lot of the time it takes to reach there. And what I meant to say by that is, typically you need to go through data collection process, data processing, and then obviously by the time you present the data, it may be somewhat outdated, right? That's what we have been using for past couple of decades. It works great because obviously we were not really seeing the evolution or the growth of the data that much at that time. But with social media and a lot of other platform, obviously we see immense value in processing the data at the rapid mm, uh, pace. And I think that is where uh, business intelligence was working fine. But since the world is really modernizing in terms of the globalization as well as the complexity of the decisions that you need to make, obviously business intelligence is still relevant, but you want to take it step further and augment that with some of the techniques that we talked about, AI, ML, and make it really a decision intelligence platform.
So to kind of you touch on several things here as far as benefits go, but to kind of summarize, how do you characterize maybe the primary benefits of decision intelligence, either in addition to or instead of some of these other tools?
The most important part that I will call it out, right? Traditional decision making process that we all have used, I briefly talked about that. Hey, we collected the data and obviously we visualized that data and found the critical insights that will affect our business, and then obviously through the dashboarding and the reporting, stakeholders used to make those insights and make relevant business decisions, right? Obviously this is good, but by the time you make the final decision, the process will start all over again, right? It's a very iterative process and linear process, right? So the bottleneck that we had seen with that earlier traditional approach is decisions can come days, weeks, or months after the initial data is gathered, and predicting outcome is very much based on the past performance and behavior. So that traditional decision making process is becoming less effective in modern business environment, and that's where I think the benefit of the decision intelligence platform is going to make a big difference, in my opinion. So digital disruption across all the industries, complexity of the global and connected organizations obviously have introduced a level of unpredictability for forward thinking decisions. So, given the exponential growth of the available data, traditional models become unsustainable. So, the primary benefit that decision intelligence platform will be able to offer is uh, with augmentation of the advanced technologies like AI, ML, and natural language query will help you make more comprehensive decision in a much faster way, and more importantly in an automated way. You don't need to rely upon interpretation of the data in making those decisions. You are just offered one, two, or three options in front of you. It is very just obvious that, hey, what will be the best decisions that you can make among the options provided, right? One of the example that I would always like to state, very simple, everybody uses in a day in day out basis, right? GPS, right? So we all use GPS systems, whether it's a Google Maps or many other options out there. You have set your preferences in your GPS system that, hey, here is my travel preference, avoid toll or maybe take the economical route, whatever that might be. And based on that, you just provide point A and point B as a input variable, and then your intelligent app will churn through millions of possibility actually going from point A to point B, but it only gives you one or two best options, right, based on your preferences. So it is so much easier for you to make the decision because it knows based on the real time data, traffic, many other situations, what will be the best option for you to select, right? So that's exactly the decision intelligence platform, in my opinion.
That's great. That's great. Well, so we talked about benefits. Now let's talk about challenges. So what challenges do organizations need to overcome in order to really get value from decision intelligence?
Many organizations are still in a transition phase, right? They have been still adopting some of the decision intelligence techniques such as AI ML. Lot of advanced mature product organization has obviously ingrained that decision intelligence platform in their life cycle for last few years, right? But not all the organizations are there. So what I meant to say by that is it's still a very much transition phase, and they need to ensure that they are focusing on modernizing this advanced decision making as an integral part of their business decisions. And a simple question that I would probably raise here is, wouldn't it be nice if you know how will my decision is going to affect my company next year? If I can know that now, right? It's going to be an amazing and help me really make the right decision. So in terms of the challenges, I think it's a journey, and most importantly, it's a transition phase. I think in coming days, it is going to coming days or maybe months is going to really become a mainstream as part of the business organizations, and you just don't rely upon BI and traditional techniques.
So, as we're talking about overcoming some of these challenges, what are some best practices for organizations to keep in mind when they're implementing decision intelligence?
I think the most important part is you need to establish a framework that has learning capabilities and the framework that supports the feedback loop, right? You may not get the decision right the first time. That's where I think some of this AI ML techniques is really going to help. You need to feed a lot of training data. You need to make sure that whatever the data was presented at that time and the decision taken using that data, how effective it was historically, right? So you are going to get quite a bit of insights through that modeling techniques, and make sure that you are incorporating as part of that, because it's a continuously changing environment, right? Something that you may have decided probably a week ago may not be relevant based on what is happening today, right? So as long as you are adopting to that learning and feedback loop, it's certainly going to help making and building the right decision intelligence platform for your organization. One of the other data point that I want to highlight, right, and obviously this is I was reading something, uh, I think it's on TED Talk, right? One of the very interesting case study was presented that, hey, Einstein quoted that, hey, if you have not really discovered something as a scientist by the age of 30, you may be probably out of possibility that, hey, you are going to discover something very genuine and changing the world kind of a scenario afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's true, right? But obviously that was the perspective at that time. Now with the techniques of AI and ML, there has been a lot of study happen that, hey, let's submit all those white papers and the research submitted by a lot of data scientists or the scientists globally, and kind of correlate whether that statement is true or not, right? And I think the study concludes that age has no particular relevance, that you cannot discover anything amazing and changing the world kind of a scenario post age 30, right? So it is just coincident at that time. You may probably after trying few attempts probably give up on
Right.
something, but it is not true that you cannot discover something post 30. So interesting study, and I think that's a great way to really think about, hey, it's always an opportunity for an organization. If you have not delivered something in the past, that doesn't mean that you cannot deliver something for the future, right? just keep trying and have that learning capability and the feedback loop. It may change the world for you and for your organization.
Do you have any examples or some use cases that demonstrate successful use of decision intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of use cases. Many of them we see day in, day out in the consumer world. The most simple one that I would like to probably call out is the recommendation engine, right? So, obviously, we all watch TV shows and Netflix and Amazon Prime and many other platforms out there, right? So, based on your past history of watching certain kind of TV shows or the movies, etc., it automatically gives you that, hey, what is next that we recommend for you, right? And many times it is very close, like, okay, yeah, this is the kind of movies I would like to watch. Then it works great, right? Same thing on Amazon.com or any other e-commerce platform. Based on your buying patterns, it gives you the recommendation that, hey, people who bought this also combined with two other things, right?
Right.
So that is absolutely the great example of decision intelligence, right? um, from the consumer aspect perspective. um, Many other example I can quote. One of the probably more relevant in today's world is everybody is fighting for the talent, right? Hey, it is a great resignation, or in my opinion it's a great opportunity, honestly, to attract the right talent. And if you have the decision intelligence that kind of predict based on the candidate's past employment history, the skill set that person brings, the social interactions, as well as some other requirements about either working remotely or any other preference to the domain or industry that the person wants to work. If you can predict the likelihood of that person joining and retaining that for next 3 years, 5 years, or even longer, absolutely, decision intelligence is supporting those use cases for many of our internal use cases as well as for our customers.
One last question. Was there anything else that you wanted to say in terms of decision intelligence or decision making that we haven't had a chance to cover yet?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. In my opinion, as I said earlier, it is in a transition phase. Obviously, in the consumer space, it has become quite a bit of a mainstream. But what I'm looking forward to is in coming days and weeks and months, how can this be really mainstream for making the business oriented decisions, right? Like the example that I gave, hey, if I make this decision now, how it's going to impact my organization next year, right? So I think that is what I see coming as a future, and I don't think we are too far off from there.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on this fascinating and really important subject to businesses.
Thank you, Greg, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, I'd like to thank Devang Pandya from TEKsystems for joining the show. Learn more about TEKsystems and their perspective at TEKsystems.com. I'm Greg Kilstrom. Thanks for listening to the Agile Brand. See you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand with Greg Kilstrom podcast, brought to you by TEKsystems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.theagilebrand.show. To get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, visit my website at gregkilstrom.com. Until next week, stay agile.